Welcome to the Millionaire Mindcast, where we broadcast weekly interviews with millionaire minds from across the globe to empower you on your journey of unlocking a rich and fulfilling life. It's time to unleash your millionaire within. Now, here's your host, Matty A.
What's going on, guys? Matty A here. Welcome into today's episode. I got a great guest for you guys, my man, Mr. Andy Dane Carter. If you don't know Andy, you got to look him up on social media. He is somebody that really has built this very diverse brand online in a lot of different verticals of real estate, but he's truly somebody that has followed the Gary Vee model to a T in terms of content and the machine that he's built and how he's repurposed that, how he's been consistent with that, and the growth that has come as a result. He's somebody who's an amazing real estate investor, as well as an amazing agent and broker. He wrote a book called 100 Doors, all about financial freedom and cash flow. But really, he is somebody that I have been following early on in the game. One, just because he is one of those individuals that is very brilliant and wise when it comes to real estate investments and wealth building. But as I started following more and more of what he's been up to and seeing the discipline and the focus and the consistency that he's had around his brand, now looking up, 12, 24 months later and seeing the hundreds of thousands of followers that he's gained in the process and the impact that he's had and the opportunities that he's created for himself, I wanted to bring him onto the show today to break down what that brand building has looked like. And he really shared and pulled back the curtain a lot of, I don't want to even say secrets, but just his sauce for how he's done what he's done and how you can do this too, and how important brand building in today's landscape is, not only for your business, but for you as an individual. And we talked some really cool stuff in today's episode that I know you guys are really going to like. He also talks about how he's able to do all of these things across so many different businesses and still have that balance and that freedom for his family and for his kids, his wife, for his friends, and for the philanthropy and all of the amazing things that he does. So I know you guys are going to enjoy today's episode. If you're new to the show, welcome. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. We focus on all things mindset, money, and market updates to help you on your march to a million and beyond. Knowing that everybody has a different definition of wealth building and what a rich, financially free, fulfilling lifestyle looks like, I like to bring on guests like Andy to hear about their journeys and what they're up to, what are they investing in, what challenges did they overcome, what things have worked well for them, so that way you, based on where you're at and what your vision is, have the ability to pull those nuggets out and implement them and integrate them so you can get those results without really having to have those trials and errors as many individuals do when they try and go this alone. So with that being said, if that resonates with you, hit that subscribe button. If you get any value from today's episode, all I ask is that you share it with a friend, a family member, tag myself and Andy on social media. We love connecting with you guys. Shoot me a text at 844-447-1555 on what your favorite part of this episode was. And know that any of the tools or resources, links that we talk about in today's show will be at millionairemindcast.com on Andy's episode. So be sure to check all that out. If you haven't taken advantage of life insurance and the infinite banking concept, what the wealthy do, then be sure to head over to becomethebank.info to learn more about that. If you want a free financial x-ray on your investment portfolio, text the word x-ray to 844-447-1555. And with that being said, let's not waste any more time. Without further ado, let's dig into today's episode with my man, Andy Dane Carter, right after this quick message from today's show sponsor. Well, I'm excited to welcome into the show my man, Andy Dane Carter. What's going on, brother?
What's up, my friend?
We're both here in Cali. The weather is starting to turn. It's nice. Things are starting to open up slowly. Real estate is hot. So I don't got a whole lot of complaining to do right now. That's for sure.
I'm the same way, brother. Yeah, agreed. I mean, it's nice. And it's really hard to beat like this state. But yeah, they sure make it hard. But at the same time, there could be a lot worse places to live.
That is true. Well, I know I've been following your brand for, when did you start building your brand? Because I feel like I started following your brand before you really had like 10,000 followers, let alone a couple 100,000. So it's been fun seeing your journey on the personal branding and kind of social side of things. but I know you've been doing, you know, big things for a really long time. But I'm just curious, when did you start building up your brand online?
Yeah, right about like 4.5 years ago now.
Okay.
And I came out of the gates just, I mean, like
Hot.
absolute guns blazing. And there was a team of 6, and then there was a team of 8, and I was doing all kinds of content created. And this whole thing started from me starting to follow this, loud guy from New York, Gary V. And then within 6 months of me finding him, I was literally there in his office in New York, and like, having like a serious meeting with Gary. And he's like, dude, you have a great story, man. You have tons of fire. And just put your head down for the next 2 years and produce tons of content every single day and give away all your best stuff for free. And I was like, really? All of it? Just go. And he's just like, just go and watch what happens. I was like, okay. And that's literally exactly what I did. And I just have not stopped since.
I love it, man. And I know we're starting kind of at the end. I want to back up to the beginning, but what have been some of the benefits of your brand and having that social presence outside of making an impact and a difference in people's lives? Selfishly, how has it kind of served and opened up doors and opportunities and relationships for you?
Yeah, I mean, super good question, brother. And it's literally, I mean, it's hard for me to even believe, but it's all just kind of worked out the exact way that Gary was going to say it. It was going to work out. And it's a blueprint, it's like the same thing. Like if you follow a recipe, here's the things that work and don't work. And if you stop, it's the same thing with stocks and trading and investing. But it's opened doors with the book. It's opened doors for business, like crazy, crazy business opportunities. There are deals now that come straight to my DM on either Facebook or Instagram from people that are all over the country. That doesn't happen if nobody knows who I am. So, and like I very selfishly did all this stuff for my kids. Like,
I love it.
So my kids now are just about 8 and just about 6. But when I started this, they were like 1 and 3. And it was this fear of like, what happens if my plane crashes? Or what happens if like my children, like my 2 boys, will never know how much passion that I had for life and business and to help people. And I talk about this all the time from stage. It's like I would give anything to hear one podcast from my grandma and grandpa. Just one of like how they met, in like World War II and just their own words, because they're gone. And that's now gone forever. But I mean, we have over 160 episodes and podcasts. That's going to be heard by my great, 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 great granddaughter, who's going to be just like me, because she hears something in me that's going to give her the permission to just go all in on whatever she wants to do. Like, I feel a tremendous amount of responsibility. And for the first time in like human history, this stuff's going to live forever. Like the cloud is real. Like it's going to be up there in some facet, and how we basically have it and connect it. It's just a powerful tool to basically scrapbook your life with all these different things. And it's great because I'm a terrible writer. I literally spoke my book to my phone. It got transcribed. That went to the publisher. I'm severely dyslexic. I'm an awful writer. My son, who's almost 8, can literally spell better than me already. Like, so technology has literally caught up with like my crazy brain. And I've got like all kinds of ADD. So I go a million miles an hour, which is great for business, but it's really bad if you're in school. I was always told like, good luck, Andy. It's a good thing that you're a good athlete. Like, I was like, screw you. I go,
what does that mean?
Exactly. So I just like loved business, loved people. So I went just completely all in with that strength. And so like, I was like, so to go all the way back, I was raised by a single mom. It was me and my little brother. Parents split when I was 4. We were dirt poor, like real life poor. Lived in like studio apartment, didn't have a refrigerator, lived out of a cooler. Like we struggled. I started working when I was 12, and I just never stopped. I knew I was good with people. I knew I learned really quick. And I also knew that I liked money and to have my own for freedom, and that I could help my mom. So it filled all these things. And I was also a really good athlete. So I just took that mindset of like, I want to win into business. And then I got to use all those skills. But I've never stopped at like the stuff that's hard. I always try stuff that's way outside of my comfort zone. Since I was a little kid, I was literally going to be a fireman. I wanted to help people. I wanted to be a medic. I wanted to go into buildings and save people. Like that was my thing. And then about 19 years old, I fell in love with wine. So now I'm on this path to become the youngest wine sommelier in the US. So, and that was from a wine tasting that I was at this restaurant I was working at. 6 weeks later, I'm living in Bordeaux, France, trying to like figure this whole thing out.
No way.
And then I passed the test when I was 21. So I was the second youngest to pass the test. So I was super close to my goal. And I did that for years. You know, I was super into wine and restaurants. I used to own restaurants and businesses. And then I got burnt out, really burnt out, put on like 70 pounds, was way overweight, super depressed for the first time in my life. And I hit pause at like 29 years old. And I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I'm going to hit pause for 30 days and just kind of see if I could figure some stuff out. Well, I got so happy within that 30-day period. I'm like, I'm just not going to go back to work. I got just enough savings, probably last me 2 years. I'm just going to chill. I became a yoga certified teacher. I started teaching yoga and started racing triathlons. Friends, family thought I'd lost my mind. I went from wearing a suit every day,
Right.
like nice car, wine, like I had it all. Big expense account. I was killing it, but I was dead on the inside. And I was super unhappy. I got so happy just teaching yoga and racing my bike and just, I got so healthy and so happy in like 60 days. I was like, I might never go back to work. I like this lifestyle. And then about a year goes by and I got to really hone in on exactly who I am. Like, I love my spiritual path. It's super important to me.
Yeah.
I love to be very competitive physically. Like, I have to have a challenge. I have to be hunting something physically. I'm super, super competitive. I don't care what it is. Like, I get really into stuff. Like, I have gear 1 and gear 6. And I'm all into something. Drives my wife nuts. She goes, what are you doing this month? And I'm like, this month it's going to be this. And she's like, here we go. But I just get really into stuff. But then I got really clear on, I miss business. Like, I miss hustling. I miss making money. I miss making big chunks of money. I miss the deal. I miss strategizing. So now those are like my 3 pillars that I have to stand on equally. If I get too much, if I get way too much into business, which we all do,
Sure.
then my personal stuff really suffers. And then my spiritual path suffers. And then I'm not spending time on my bike. So there's like an inner child that's in me that gets real pissed and will sabotage my whole world just to get me on the bike. So I listen to these things as I've gone through so much like self-development and self-growth because it all feeds each other.
I love it.
And then I got into real estate. Like, out of nowhere, everybody's like, good luck, wine guy. You're going to go do real estate. And I was like,
Right.
That's all I needed to hear. Like, that's it. And I got in 2008 when everybody was leaving real estate. Everybody's
Were
like,
you getting in on the retail side or were you doing the investing side right out of the gate?
so I went straight to investing. I literally got my license and went to go work with my like super small firm, and they were flipping houses. And so I was like, I'm going to figure out this game. I went to go work for them for free at 30 years old because I just knew there was opportunity there. And then, so within a year, I was a full partner in the firm, was doing, hundreds of deals a year and was absolutely killing it. And I loved the space of real estate and we were flipping houses, but I was like, there's got to be a better way. And then I start reading more books on like how to buy and hold real estate. And I was like, wait a minute, why doesn't everybody do this? This is amazing. And so I started to use all of my capital to just buy buildings. I started with duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes, and we scaled up from there. And then we started to buy stuff across the country. And I've been pretty much on my own for 6 years and can kind of do whatever I want. I made a hard pivot about 1.5 years ago to do more of like traditional real estate. So now we're scaling out a team and we're doing a lot. It's just, I'm constantly trying to learn stuff that's new to me because that's when I'm the happiest. I don't get, like, I get bored so easily. that it's really dangerous if I'm too bored for too long because I do really dumb shit. So
I feel like your wife and my wife would get along great because I'm like you, right? Where I'm 0 to 100. It's either all or nothing. I'm always doing. I just finished. I'm sure you've heard of Andy Frisella's 75 Hard Challenge.
Love Andy.
I just finished that challenge, and that was a great test of discipline and will. But always looking for that next mountain to climb, right? How do you find that time for yourself in terms of the balance between, you talked about the family, the business? What are the frameworks look like that kind of are your, I like to call them metaphorically the bumpers to the bowling alley to make sure you're not bowling gutter balls, that you're always hitting pins and putting points up on the board. What are some of the rhythms and routines that really keep you as a hard charger somewhat centered and kind of coloring within the lines?
Yeah, super smart question. And for me, for most of my career, it was let's burn it down so I can rebuild it, because that's where the fun is, right? I've slowly gotten a little wiser with my age. And about 5 years ago, right before this like humongous thing with like the brand and marketing and books, and is kind of going all in with that, was really clear on my morning routine and my evening routine were my life. Like it became these things that are called non-negotiables for me. Like no matter what, I do the same thing every morning, whether I'm on vacation, whether it's Saturday or Sunday. My life is super, super simple. And I break everything down in 90-day chunks. Everything is quarter by quarter.
Yep.
And I get lasered in on what's going on for those 90 days. But the morning, in my opinion, is the most important. I get up between 3 and 4:30 every morning.
Wow.
I haven't had an alarm in over 10 years. My brain just gets up. So that's my sacred time. The first 10 minutes, I go into like a deep meditation. I'm still like laying in bed. It's not like I sit up and get in this like nice position and I'm like, ooh, I'm doing a meditation. No, I get clear. There's that pause and I get really clear and I let drop in what's going to drop in and I acknowledge it. Sometimes it's stress. Sometimes it's anxiety. Sometimes it's depression. Sometimes it's joy, whatever it is. I let it like pass through me. And then I sit in gratitude for 5 minutes. What am I grateful for? Exact same exercise. What's coming in? Is it my kids? Is it a client? Is it a gift? Is it just like this time right now?
Mm-hmm.
And then I usually go and stretch a little bit. And then my kids are waking up and then I work out. So I move my body physically to charge it, to give myself the energy that it's going to need for the day. That part's super, super important. And I used to eat something super clean and healthy, but now I literally fast until like 1. So I don't even do that. I've got this really insane coffee I make with like oils and butters and like, protein. I make this amazing coffee and that fuels me up. And then I spend about an hour to an hour and a half with my 2 little boys, right? So that fills my heart up. So first I fill up my body, mind, and soul with like all my spiritual stuff. I pray. I do the things that I do to make me feel good.
Yep.
And then I hang out with my kids. I make them their lunch. I make them their snacks for school. I do everything in the morning. My wife's still sleeping. God bless her. She likes to sleep. Nanny shows up at 7:30. I'm usually kind of like just getting through the sauna, just getting out of the infrared sauna. So I have my day planned. So by the time 9 o'clock hits, I'm ready to eat somebody. Like I'm ready to rock. And that is the kind of stuff that you have to do day in and day out to build those disciplines. And I literally stole all of this from people like Mr. Frisella, love Andy, love his brother Sal. Like I just watch other people that are just good dudes and gals that I can relate to.
Yep.
If that's working for them, I'll take a little piece, try it, test. I love to test stuff. I'll test it. If it works for me, it becomes a habit. If it doesn't work for me, I let it go. Same with religion. Like I like to study like stuff in history to find out what might work for me in my life to make me a little better of a person.
Yeah, I love that. What do you, what's on your radar right now? What are you testing out or, finding ways of integrating into your life or your routine or your ways of thinking that you're excited about right now?
Sure. So I'm a podcast fanatic. I'm constantly just listening to new stuff. There's this guy named Peter Crone. I love that dude. I found him on accident from a podcast he was doing. I think it was Aubrey Marcus or Ed Milet, I forget.
Okay.
And I was like, what an interesting dude. Hit him up on Instagram. He's going to be on my podcast here pretty soon.
Nice.
But I love the dude's philosophy on like how you can heal like some of your trauma from your past. He works with like super high level athletes. But he kind of gets you through the BS really quickly to a point of pain. And then you get to you can kind of nurture that part. And then you could almost tell yourself a different story. Like maybe that actually wasn't true. It was true to you when you were 7, but is it still true to you at 44? And I just loved the philosophy behind that. So I've been listening to a lot of Peter stuff. But for me, I mean, I have this humongous whiteboard that's right there that you guys can't see. That's like 6 feet by 12. And it's just covered with like science projects of stuff we're working on for split testing, for marketing, branding, all different kinds of stuff that's coming out with Google. I love to market. I'm a marketing machine. I love the brand. And for me, that's all testing. Everybody's like, I got this great idea. Cool, test it.
Yep.
I got this awesome thing. Okay, that's probably not going to work, but let's just test it. Like, like I'm all about testing it. And I think we as people have a really hard time testing things on ourselves. Like I'm constantly testing stuff. Especially my wife. Like she doesn't believe in anything. So like it's so hard for me to get stuff past her that I'm like, well, I'm going to test this and see what she thinks.
I love that. That's amazing because it is one of those things where in everything that you do nowadays, you're marketing your services, you're marketing yourself, you're marketing something, right? And I feel like a lot of people, part of their identity is I'm not a marketer. And
that was my story.
And I look at you and I go, someone now who's got so much digital real estate and so many assets out in the, social universe. And by the way, what you shared earlier was extremely powerful in terms of giving that asset and that gift to your kids or to your future grandkids. I've never heard anybody say they do social media and branding for that particular reason or that why. Usually the family's always, the deep-rooted why of why that somebody hustles and builds a business. But I love that you talked about that aspect of it because it somewhat changes the context and the paradigm in which people might be able to engage with the motivation and the discipline and execution that goes into consistently creating that kind of stuff. So I thought that was really cool. And it gives people a window into who you are, what do you stand for, what are you doing, how you build up authority and credibility and opportunities. And I think now more than ever, those are things that have to be a part of every business plan moving forward. Would you agree with that?
100%. It's like there are people that they want to do business with you.
Yep.
Not just your logo. Like it's still a people sport. It's always going to be a people sport. The more belly to belly you can get, the better. That's why I go so hard on Instagram stories. But the number one reason, it gets archived forever.
Yep.
My kids can go back and watch the stuff when they were 2 and I was on the Instagram, that's archived forever.
Yeah.
I'm digitally scrapbooking my entire existence daily through those platforms. Instagram stories are my daily vlog. I get more business now because I talk about being a good dad. I talk about being a good husband. I talk about business. I talk about lifestyle. I talk about health and nutrition in my stories. So then you can consume me at your pace. And then I can build trust over time because most people say they're a good dude or they're a good gal. Most people say they're good at their thing. But when you're constantly showing somebody, oh shit, there was a thing for 5 years, I was at home at 3:00, no matter what. It was like, how is this guy doing so much, getting so much done? And he's home at 3:00 every day to pick his kids up from school. I coach all my kids' teams. Like it's a choice. Yeah. Just like I'm choosing to do these podcasts. There's days I don't want to do a podcast, believe me. But guess what? Do I want to take that for my great, 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 great granddaughter? And No, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
So I do it anyways. So for me, it's just, and it's never been easier. I think every family should have a family podcast. They should do it every Thanksgiving together. Like, do it on your phone, just upload it to something. It becomes cool, it becomes fun. And then, like, it's a way for us to connect digitally. I mean, like, look what we're doing right now, right? We're on Zoom. My wife was so pissed that our kids had to learn from Zoom and not their really cool school and their private school. The first thing that hit my head, I'm like, babe, our 5-year-old is going to get to learn how to navigate this insane platform called Zoom.
Yeah.
I go, what a gift. And she's like, you're horrible. I go, no. I go, but babe, like, I just see that the glass is definitely half full.
Yeah.
Always. It's going to be frustrating, but how amazing for a 5-year-old to be able to navigate Zoom, and my 7-year-old's a ninja on it now.
Yeah. Dude, it's such a cool way of looking at things, though, too, in terms of, I love the idea of a family podcast, right? Creating those experiences and assets together is fun. I got a couple different studios set up in the office, and my daughters come in and we create videos together. And it's something that, they're learning and they're enjoying, and it's building a skill set for them. But part of why I've been such, like you, I started off flipped a couple hundred houses over the last, 10 years. And then I was like, okay, this is a lot of work. I need to start buying doors and holding them so I can collect income. And then started getting into commercial and, different assets in my portfolio. But what I realized was how powerful, as I said, hey, I want to start incorporating this personal brand into my business model instead of it just being this tangible brick and mortar world, knowing where things are going, which you're a perfect testament to, tying a physical world into the online world and how they are so synergistic and congruent. People may just not give them as much credit as they should be. I look at the cross-pollination between those two worlds. And the other day, I'm buying a second hotel up in Lake Tahoe, and I'm sitting down with the seller, and we get through our 2 or 3 hour meeting, and then we're leaving, and she goes, hey, I want to talk to you for a second. And I was like, okay, no problem. And she goes, you're a very impressive young man. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And she goes, well, I went on to Google your name, and your YouTube came up, and then your Millionaire Mindcast podcast came up, and then this came up, and I went and I listened to a bunch of your stuff. Long story short, she's got a couple $1 million just sitting in her savings account. And she goes, I want to start with $1 million with you, and your next apartment building that you buy, I want you to take some of my money and use it. I didn't have to sell her on who I was, what I stood for, why I'm credible. Why should she even trust me to steward her cash and get her the return? It was all of the digital assets that were out there providing that return on my time spent invested into those things, but it was evergreen. I don't have to go back and redo those things over or say that, speech or pitch ever again. Right. And so I look at what you've built and some of the people you've interviewed and, some of the opportunities that you've got your hands in now. And I want people to really pay attention to the fact that, this online world is something that you should embrace and not be so self-conscious about, and really learn the game, right? So knowing that you've done it at such a high level, where should people start? That, what is a rhythm or maybe a commitment or a resource that they can plug into to at least start following the breadcrumbs down the path that you and I both know hold a lot of weight in return?
Sure. Super great question. Start where you feel comfortable and then go a little bit past that, just a little bit outside your comfort zone to start. If you think that it was easy for me to start, you should go back and look at some of my first videos on YouTube. They're train wrecks. They're absolute train wrecks. And they're like full production. I was like, okay, if I buy all this stuff, it's going to look awesome. That's not true. My highest performing stuff is still like this.
Right.
Hey, what's up, guys? All right, this is Andy. Like, it's me and my phone just being me. And what's really helped my brand is I'm me right now. I'm going to be me tomorrow. I was me 4 years ago. I'm me if I meet you on the street. I'm me if I just get off stage from a huge conference or I spoke to thousands of people and you're asking me questions. It's my biggest compliment. People are like, you're the exact same as you are online. I'm like,
yeah.
well, how else am I supposed to be? So be authentically you all the time. That's a major secret. There's been people, I've been on a lot of podcasts where like the person who I'm talking to before they hit record is light years different than the person that hits record is like, hey, this is me. I'm like, whoa, like who's that person? And then it's back to, like it's like you have to be consistent, but just start. Like that's why I love Facebook stories and Instagram stories is it lets you walk into a world where you already might be kind of comfortable and then just post some stuff. Post once a day in those stories and then twice a day. It's like working out. Like you don't go to the gym, do 500 sit-ups and leave ripped. Like you have to give yourself accomplishable goals in the short term to get like just enough wins under your belt to win. But you got to give yourself enough runway. That part is where most people miss. Don't set these big goals like, I'm going to start a YouTube channel, then I'm going to do Facebook, and I'm going to chop up the content. Just go, look, I'm going to do this for as long as it feels good.
Yep.
And for me, it was forever. I told myself, as soon as I turn the camera on, I'm never turning it off. Are you okay with that? And I had to get really, really okay with that.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's the legacy piece for the family. I'm going to do millions in business. That's great. But still, the number one driver for me is this little girl that's going to watch me in 100 years and be like, I was just like you.
Man, that's powerful. And that is definitely a motivator, right? For a lot of people to push through maybe some of the limiting beliefs or the excuses that we rationalize in our head. What has been for you the biggest ROI in terms of how you allocate your time to social media and how much does it really require? I think there's a lot of misconceptions that people have of, whether it's equipment or it's a team or it's time, how simple can it be?
It can be as simple as your phone. I know some high level people that you might think have these massive teams behind them. You know what they have? Their phone.
Yeah.
You know who posts? They do. Response to all the DMs? They do. Like you would be shocked how many people just handle it themselves. Yep. And then you have people that have teams of 20 behind them and they couldn't tell you a comment, a post, a like, how many, anything, because they're so removed from it. You still have to just do you. Like for me, I started 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour at night. And I would answer every DM and I would answer every comment. I made it a priority to invest in that thing to learn. The more time I spent on social media, the more I learned. I was like a sponge, especially in the beginning. And I had to literally give myself permission to be on social media longer. I'm like, look, this is an investment in what you're trying to build. You need to allocate more time to it. So I started to go from 1 hour to 2 hours to 3 hours in the morning. But I was starting to learn. I'm like, wait a minute, how do I get into Forbes? How do I get my book picked up by and then I could DM these people that have been doing it for 10 years and they would just tell me. So is that a really good use of my time? Yes.
Yeah. And
then I send a direct response back to some kid who's been following me for 2 years. Like, I can't believe you responded. Like, is that a good ROI? And then 6 months later, they call me with this amazing deal. And because it's like, you can connect the dots, like just be a good person. Yeah. But you don't need all the fancy stuff. You'll know when it's time to scale. You'll know when it's too much and it's taking from your business. You need to hire somebody. But it just depends on what you're trying to build, just like with any business.
What about, what are some of the boundaries you've built in terms of social media, right? Making sure that it doesn't bleed over into becoming a higher priority over relationships or time with the kids or with the wife. How do you, what boundaries and barriers have you built up to kind of bulletproof that time and make sure that it's, productive when it needs to be productive, but it's also, checked out of when it's time to be present where you're at?
Super great question. I'm really glad you asked that because I struggled with that, especially at the very beginning.
I'm asking for myself.
No, I get it. And I'm going to give you a great hack. My wife hates social media. Hey, most people, half of them, Like they're like, you say you're married, but we've never seen your wife. That's all by design. She doesn't want to be on it. Cool, I respect that.
Yep.
Sometimes I'll get like little glimpses of her where I can touch her. But for us, like family time, she's Italian. Like family time is family time. So I was on my phone a lot for just business. And now I'm on my phone a lot for business, social media, marketing, brand. I mean, like it goes on and on.
Right.
This has become a laptop, a desktop, everything, right? So from 5:30 to 7:30 to 8 o'clock, our phones will go into a drawer in the kitchen. Her phone, my phone. She has 3 businesses too. We're both real busy. But as soon as we do that, I mean, they're on like do not disturb mode. I'm in an airplane mode and they're in a drawer.
Nice.
Business partners, people know from certain times it's impossible to get a hold of me unless you come to my house. Impossible. No emails, nothing. Now, you don't have to do that forever, but you have to do it long enough to create a pattern where you know when it's time to do it again. And we usually do it once a quarter, once every 6 months, where there's something going on with our kids. And like, I'm like this, she's on her laptop, and we'll both kind of look at each other and be like, it's time to put the phones in the drawer again. Like, I think you're right.
Yeah.
But we know those boundaries. It's just like 75 hard, right? Like the biggest gift of that whole thing is not what you look like afterwards. Yep. It's the mental like bookends that you have. You're like, it's 11:30 at night. I'm exhausted. I got to go do an outdoor workout for an hour and a half. Like, I should have planned better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the same with everything else in your life. It carves these new things into your brain that are real. So the cell phone thing is real. Everybody knows when they're super addicted to something. Even a full-blown heroin addict is like, I'm pretty addicted to this stuff. Social media in your phone is no different. And it's not the end of the world to throw your phone in a drawer for 2 hours, 1 hour in the morning, whatever works for you and your family. But here's some advice, guys, just because I can speak from my own perspective. Don't go home today and be like, here's what we're doing, babe.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to blow up in your face. At least in my world, women like just lead by example. You just go and you do it. And then she's going to notice, might take 1 day, it might take 3 weeks. But she'll notice you don't have your phone for 2 hours between here and here. Why? Well, spending time with you and the family is really important to me. And my phone is a distraction. So I decided just to put my phone there for 2 hours. And I told like my sales team, I told everybody that they can't get a hold of me from 5 to 7. And you watch their face light up with joy. Like you're choosing family. Mm-hmm. Everybody's like, I'm too busy. Like, you're never too busy. I've created the life I've wanted on purpose. And if I know it's going to be real busy for 6 months, I front load my wife with that. I go, babe, we're launching these new campaigns and I'm doing a hard pivot. It's going to be gnarly for 2 quarters. I don't blindside her with it by like, home late every night. It's like, it's a partnership.
Yep.
So again, lead by example. You do stuff, they'll notice. Some women notice stuff in an hour. Some women notice stuff in a month. They're all different.
Yeah, I love that. Great way to kind of bulletproof the priorities, right, of what's most important. I wanted to shift over a little bit in terms of, your investing and wealth building mindset. You're always, tackling and charging a new mountain and new hill. What is your approach and philosophy to, I know it's evolved because you've got the amazing book, 100 Doors. And for those of you who haven't read that yet, be sure to head over to millionairemindcast.com. We'll link that up. There it is, 100 Doors right there. Cash flow is king. You have really built a massive portfolio that kicks off a lot of mailbox money and passive income. And there's gradual, levels and steps to that, right? So how did it start and what has it evolved into today?
Sure. So I love the space of real estate. There's a lot of people out there. A lot of them are gurus and they talk about courses and all this stuff. I'm a big fan of walking into investments, walking into long-term wealth for sure, not like maybe. So for me, I like to go slow. I do a ton of due diligence, like obnoxious.
Nice.
I vet deals really quickly. I'm very fast. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. But as soon as I'm like, this is a yes, I go as slow as humanly possible. And I'll usually try to put things in certain places within the contract so I can go as slow as I want, so I don't miss. I've got really great mentors that are in their 70s and 80s. So for me, I was told, you should buy, 20 unit building. Don't waste your time with the 2s, 3s, or 4s. There's somebody out there you guys probably all know, and I know him real well and his wife. But let me just tell you, you're going to get yourself in a pickle if you get yourself in the wrong position too quick. Mm-hmm. I like the 2, 3, and 4 for this reason. Anybody can get in. Single mom that's poor, school teacher, someone who's just trying to figure it out. The 2, 3, and 4 model falls under the same residential financing as a condo, a house, a duplex, triplex, or fourplex. It's residential financing, which means it falls under the FHA guidelines where you can put 3.5% down on a $700,000 duplex or triplex, which is not very much money. Or do some math. 7, 14, 21. You're not putting down $100,000. Here's the other hack I always like to just share with everybody. If you go and spend $400 and get your real estate license, 2 to 2.5 to 3% of that down you'll need will come back to you in commission when you represent yourself to buy that. So now that's a true zero down scenario. You live in one of the units for 1 year and 1 day, says the law here in California. You rent out the other units to cover the majority of the mortgage. And that's it. And you do that twice in your lifetime, just twice. And then you sit back and let 20 years go by. And then you have a few $1 million in these little piggy banks, like all these people did in Southern California that came over here with nothing. They came here to this country with $10. They opened up a gas station, a liquor store. I buy more 2, 3, and 4 unit from mom and pop investors that it's been handed down, or somebody's had it for 30 years, it's fully depreciated, and they're ready for me to buy it. That's my jam. So I try to tell everybody, because if I was 22 years old, I wouldn't be looking to buy some big shiny house and Lamborghini and all that crap. I'd go find a really cool fourplex with a front house. I'd put 3.5% down. I would rent the 3 rooms to either my friends, or if I had an e-commerce business, I would run my business out of that hard asset that I can depreciate. That's a tax shelter. You got to live somewhere. Might as well pay rent to yourself as a landlord. All that stuff that's in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The book that I wrote is just the second book of that. You read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you get all fired up, and now what?
Right.
So I show you the little principles, and it's not with the house. For me, I like more doors, less risk. Someone loses their job, you aren't in a bad position. But for everybody out there, I'll challenge you. If you're trying to get in, go to your local bank, call your local mortgage broker, and say, how do I buy a 2, 3, or 4 unit using a FHA loan?
Yeah.
And you have to take my word for it. Ask them.
Yep. And it's just a great way to get started, right? It's that initial stepping stone. You get one under the belt, and all of a sudden, the land of opportunity and the confidence that goes along with it now starts to open up and expand. And then from there, right, it's kind of like sitting down and, playing Monopoly for the first time. You don't really necessarily know what all the players are, what the best, pieces of real estate are to buy, and what the strategy of the game is. But you play Monopoly, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, you're going to start connecting those dots. Things are going to slow down a little bit. You're going to know how to play and strategize at a little bit higher of the, level. And that's all you need to do is just win on that first one, and you're in the game, right? And then from there, it's just, and that was mine. I just want to get one. And then the next year it was, hey, let me find out, how do I get 2? Okay, let me find out how I get 4, right? And then you start playing the game at a much higher level, start by retail strip centers, by apartment buildings, by, I got into the hotel space, which was interesting. But it is one of those things where I would have never started or even given myself that opportunity if I hadn't just got that one door under ownership.
It's so smart, man. And that's the thing. It's a very low barrier to entry from a cash on cash perspective, especially if you're going to live there. And I always tell people too, you might hate it. You might absolutely hate it, but now you know.
Yep.
Or you might love it, and it becomes the best drug you've ever had in your entire life. So for me, you have to know, like, if you buy a 20 unit building and you hate it and there's a market correction, like, you're in a serious position.
Yeah.
If you buy a fourplex and you live in one of the units, it didn't really cost you much to get in it, and the market, crashes, you got to live somewhere, and now your friends are helping you basically cover until the market corrects. Like, that's a much easier pill to swallow. Like I said, or you love it, and then you start, wait a minute, what's a 1031 exchange? I can exchange this 4 unit into an 8 and defer all those taxes, and then I can do this whole thing all over again? What?
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you get to kind of slowly sample how you want to invest. And for me, my whole portfolio is in real estate because I get to control it. I don't have any money in Coke. I don't have any money in Tesla. Love all those things. But like, what happens if like the CEO of Coke decides to sleep with his secretary and like he has to step down and the stock plummets? What does that have to do with me and my family? But if like a hard asset, I can paint it. I can leverage it. I can raise the rents. Look up what a gross rent multiplier is and watch your face smile. Like those little things that you learn as you go, you're like, how is this even legal? But like, it's very legal and it's encouraged.
Yeah. So what is your outlook on California real estate as an investment? Are you continuing to just hit your base hits and put points up on the board? Are you looking to diversify and expand into other markets? What is kind of based on the last year and some of the lessons there, anything shifted for you, or what is kind of the investing thesis for the next 5 to 10 years for Andy Dane Carter?
Sure. So we went really hard out of state like 3 years ago.
Got it.
It worked extremely well. We took some of the risk off the table last year. We got way ahead of this thing. As soon as this thing hit, we sent out letters to all of our tenants. We said, look, we know this is going to be painful. We're here to help. No one's getting evicted.
Yep.
No one's getting a rent raise. We're here to help. So we had people sign new leases. We put them in new structures. We said, if you can't pay your rent, we need to know now. I need to know if you got fired. I need to know if you're, so we got really clear on that. And then we're able to take that data and say, which particular assets could we sell right now and not really give up too much?
Yep.
So it's some of the stuff that we bought somewhat recently, and we just sold. So we sold some of the portfolio. We still acquired some as well. I didn't think we'd still be in a growth cycle year 13. So I was on pause, just branding like crazy, waiting for the next whip that never happened.
Yep.
So I'm constantly pivoting as well. But I like the space of multifamily real estate. I like the space of commercial right now. I think there's value. I like the hotel space as well. I've had a couple big investors hit me up. Here's the thing. People are always going to want to travel.
Yep.
But the number one thing, I'm going to continue to invest in real estate as long as people want to live inside. People need a place to live. You don't have to have nice clothes. You don't have to go to fancy restaurants. You don't have to buy a bunch of crap on Amazon, but you have to live indoors. So as long as that's still the trend here in California, I'm going to stick with that, and look, I love the other markets for cash flow. That's amazing. The appreciation is basically non-existent out there.
Yep.
And as the risk like gets higher and higher with like just the ceiling of the market, those look a lot less attractive to me.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of other people that think the opposite. Good for them. That's their model. I'm trying to be wealthy forever. So I don't care if I miss. I don't care if I don't hit the bottom perfect. I don't want to be the first one and tell everybody I was first.
Yeah.
I want to be like 69th and like just know it's working.
I love
and that's
it.
what I do.
Sticking to your model. And like you just said, it's that consistency and that repetition. And, one of my early mentors always told me, little things done consistently turn into big things over time, right? And that's the beauty of the compound effect in real estate and cash flow and your wealth and health and all areas of life. And it's just having that persistence and that repetition. It's something that you've done so well, brother. And I just want to thank you for coming on the show today and sharing some of your journey, some of your wisdom, your insights. And I know a lot of people, guys, first and foremost, if you're not following Andy on social media, on Instagram, on YouTube, the amount of content, free content, and not just free, but extremely valuable and entertaining content, you got to follow him. Where is the best place for them to check out more of your brand and what you're doing? Where would we send people?
Sure. I'm super easy to find on social. We do a lot with Instagram, and it's just my full name. Andy Dane Carter. Same thing with the website. There's a podcast that we have where, I give away all the trade secrets for free. The first podcast that we did years ago is called Bulletproof Real Estate with Andy Dane Carter. It's still out there. But if you're kind of new to investing, or you're kind of new to wholesaling, or you're like a real estate agent, there's so much good stuff there on how to brand and just take over like a certain zone. And then like the new show, we're on season 3 right now of the Andy Dane Carter show. Season 4 we're starting to gear up for. So we've got some really, really, really cool guests coming for season 4. So it should be fun.
Love it. Well, we'll be sure to link all that up at millionairemindcast.com on Andy Dane Carter's episode. Andy, brother, just want to thank you, man, for all the value that you continue to put out. And next time I'm down in SoCal, I'm going to hit you up.
Please hit me up, brother.
All right, man.